my YouTube channel. If you are new here, welcome to my channel. And we have something super exciting that we're going to be doing today. So instead of just flipping one piece, we are going to be flipping, I guess, half a set. But what makes this even cooler is that this is the original piece to that white set that I have talked about in my last video. So I told you how I sold it and how I sold it for $650 profit. And luckily, I don't know how I got this lucky, but I came across the same exact set, minus one nightstand unfortunately. But the plan is to do the same exact thing to this set that I did to the last. So this is the set right here. It is a Bassett dresser set. Again, minus one nightstand, but we're gonna end up staining the tops of these and the rest is gonna be white, and then we have special hardware for this, and it's gonna end up looking like modern farmhouse. So I know that my area is looking for pieces like this because I got so many questions and so many people wanted to buy the set, but only one could. So now we're gonna do the same exact thing and sell it on Marketplace again. I've got my screwdriver in hand and we're gonna start taking the hardware off. Gonna start with the nightstand. I know that we are going to be replacing these knobs because, like I said, we did already do a set like this, and we're gonna do the same exact replica. We're gonna replicate that completely. So these hardware knobs gotta go, and we will have to fill in these hardware holes because we've got to measure out different ones. So we're gonna start doing that now. So the hardware is already off on the nightstand, and we're gonna get started here on the dresser. See, I don't know about this hardware, you guys. What do you think? Do you think this could be salvaged for a different project, or do you think these are just too outdated and belong in the trash? I'm not sure. Next up, you guys, get your old rag and a bucket of water and just clean it off. I mean, we are going to be doing a lot of sanding on these projects since we are going to sand it down to bare wood. So you want to make sure that you really are getting all the dirt off. I didn't understand it at first. I thought, okay, well, if you're sanding it, who cares? You're gonna sand it away. But really what you're doing is you're sanding all the dirt into the wood, and we don't want that. We want our piece to be nice and clean, so we're gonna give it a good clean so we don't sand anything into the dressers. So I've got my rag, and we're gonna start cleaning. Alright, so we just finished cleaning these two pieces up. This set is in really good condition. The person before me must have really taken care of it because it was not dirty whatsoever. It was not dirty at all. There's barely any chips in it. So this is a really good piece, you guys. So if I can find some, I know I do have to fill in the holes, but other than that, I don't see that many chips. There might be a few here or there. So right now, we're gonna start using the wood filler and filling in all of the holes, the hardware holes, and any other damages that I may find to the dresser. I've got my putty knife and my wood filler, and I decided that I'm going to fill these little pieces in. I did that with the last dresser too, and I really like the look of it. I mean, they are pretty, but it's just not gonna fit the style I'm going for. So we are gonna fill these up, and then I'm gonna do the same on the dresser and the drawers. so we got all of the holes, the little nooks and crannies filled in there. So I'm gonna do the same exact thing on the dresser, and I'm also gonna do this exact thing on the hardware holes. And then we will get to sanding. All right, we are outside ready to sand. We are gonna be sanding this top to bare wood. We've got 80 grit sandpaper on top, so we're gonna start with the dresser and then we'll do the nightstand. And we will be doing a scuff sand on the sides, but the only part that's going to bare wood is this top so that it can get stained. All right. We still have the 80 grit sandpaper on here, and I'm gonna sand this top down to bare wood, and then we're gonna go back in with the 120 for, someone's dog is barking, sorry. So I'm gonna go back in with the 120 on both of these tops and also to scuff sand as well. Alright, so we have the top sanded down to bare wood. We got our 120 grit paper on, so now we're going to do the tops of both the dresser and the nightstand just to make sure everything is all smooth, and then we will also do a scuff sand around the body, and we want to make sure that we get all of these smoothed out now that we have the wood filler in there and it has dried. So we're going to start sanding with our 120 grit paper. Done on the nightstand and the dresser. I'm gonna do the drawers off camera because it's the same exact thing, but next step is your microfiber towel and just get as much sand off as you can. I'm being extra careful to make sure I'm getting all the sawdust off, just so that I know it's not gonna pop up when I start painting this white. Alright, next step is going to be staining the tops of these. I'm not really sure what exactly you're supposed to use to stain the top, but I'm using paper towel. I have a mask on because this stuff is super strong, and gloves so I don't get it on my hands. We have it in this little weird nook and cranny because we don't want a whole bunch of wind flying around with it, and it'll create uneven marks and also stuff falling from the trees. So and just like this, guys. And I'm doing this before priming just because I don't want something to drip and then get into the primer and you have to sand it all off. So this is the easiest thing to do, is do it right after you finish sanding and wiping all the sand off. The top trim too. Same exact thing for the nightstand. So we are now on to the priming stage. I am using the very last of my primer here. It is the Zinsser water-based primer. This is the only primer I have used and I absolutely love it. For the second time, I am going to be rolling on my primer. I have to be super careful though because this top that we just stained is still dry. I want to give it about 24 to 48 hours to completely dry, so we're going to do our best to stay out of the top area and just get this body painted. So unfortunately, we did not have enough primer. I kind of knew that was going to happen, but I was hoping that that wouldn't be the case. But anyways, it was good timing because we did get a nice big gallon this time, since I know that furniture flipping is going to be my thing and I want to keep doing it. So thought might as well get the big one so we don't have to go out and get more all the time. It's also good timing because it's time to use the brush. I'm just using a Purdy brush. It's hard to get in the nooks and crannies with a roller, so good thing that we got the brush in hand. As for the primer, I have it in the red Solo cup again. You don't need a red Solo cup specifically, but I would recommend you put your paint in a container. That way if debris gets in your paint, you only have to throw the container away and not the whole gallon or the whole can. So I like to mix water in my primer. I don't really measure it out. I just kind of eyeball it. I don't want it to be too thick, but I also don't want it to be too thin. So you can see it's a pretty thin line. You may not even be able to see it, but anyways, we're gonna start doing our second coat of primer. And because this dresser set is going to be white, I like to prime twice just so I make sure that I get this dark color covered. So I got most of it primed for the first time with the roller, but I'm gonna have to go back with this paintbrush and I might have to do a second, whatever you want to call it, a second or a third coat in the nooks and crannies that I didn't get with the roller. So we're going to start painting this dresser and we're going to do the same thing to the nightstand as well. Alright, I think primer is all done on the dresser. We're going to do the same exact thing on the nightstand, just priming the whole thing. Also, you guys, since we have a good shot of the back here, make sure if there is wood to do it on the back, just in case. I mean, when you are showing it off, people do like to see that the piece looks fully finished. I know that it's going to be up against the wall, but if there is pieces that need to be painted on the back, make sure you paint it on the back just so you get everything finished, everything looks complete. And yeah, so I'm going to do the same thing on the nightstand. I've got my boyfriend drilling in the holes for me, and then we'll start priming the drawers. Moved on to the drawers now for priming, and I decided to go back in with the roller instead of the paintbrush. It'll just be a lot faster to get all of this surface covered since it's a flat space and there's really no curves. So we're gonna use the roller, and also we do have the new hardware holes drilled in. So just make sure that you do that before you start painting so that you don't have to drill into the paint, because I wouldn't want any scratches or like, I wouldn't want any new scratches to come from drilling the hardware holes in after the paint has been painted on. So we did that before. Now it's time to prime. All right, I believe all of the drawers are done, and the dresser and nightstand, the primer is now dry on there. So I am gonna go ahead and do a second coat of primer on those two things while the drawers dry. And then after that, we will be ready to start painting. So I'm gonna go do that off camera. Just, it's the same process, just prime twice if you're doing a light color. And the next clip will be us starting to paint. Now that primer has been put on and it is all dry, it's time for my favorite part, which is painting. So today we are going to be using the Rust-Oleum Chalked Linen White. If you guys want something that is really, really white, like a very light color, this is the paint to go with. I am almost done with this can, but I do have a second one if I need it. So this is what it looks like, guys, and this has been my absolute favorite paint, especially white paint. Now that I have found it, I don't think I will use any other white. It looks beautiful on the pieces, and it's probably why it's my favorite step. I've got my red Solo cup here. You can use any container. You don't need a red Solo cup specifically, but I do like to have a container just so that if debris gets in this container, I can throw this little bit of paint away instead of having to throw the whole can away. That would be really unfortunate. So I do like to use a container. I have a little bit of water in here just to thin down the paint. I don't measure it out, I just kind of eyeball it, so you guys can do the same. And now it is time to get our paint poured and start painting. I think I'm just going to pour the rest of it in here because there's very little left, and then we can open up the second can of paint. Okay, it is now time to start painting, and you guys are going to see why I love this color. Alright, drawers are looking good. They are all done, so we're gonna let those sit and dry. So I've got the drawers moved over to the side. That is one thing with a smaller space, is you'll have a lot of rearranging within doing projects. But that's okay. I mean, like I've said, work with what you got. That's exactly what we're doing. So I'm gonna start painting the nightstand now, and then I'll slide this over without touching the paint because the stain is now dried, and we will start the dresser. Alright guys, so nightstand is now done and drying. We're gonna head on to the dresser. I did have to open a new can of paint, so I got some water in my Solo cup, and we're ready to get painting. Put a sweatshirt on because it's kind of chilly in here. All right. Alright, dresser is all painted. I think the drawer slides are dry now, so we're gonna go do a second coat of paint on that. And then we'll do the nightstand next and the dresser. I'm not gonna show that because it's literally the same exact thing, just doing it a second time. However, I do want to add, make sure you do a light scuff sand before the second coat, just so that you make sure everything is smooth. You're not trying to take the paint off, you are just trying to smoothen everything out. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna do the second coat of paint, and we'll be ready for top coat. All right, you guys, it is now the next day. We have our second coat on everything. We've got the drawer slides in. I find it easier to do the top coat when the slides are in, and it creates a lot more space to do other projects because a lot of the time I like to multitask my projects. But for this set, since we do have a stained top but a painted body, we are going to need 2 different top coats. And these are the 2 top coats that I'll be using. So this Wipe On Poly from Minwax is going to be for the stained top. I find that this is the easiest way to do a stained top. I just take a paper towel and wipe it on. It's literally Wipe On Poly. It's the easiest stuff. I'm not sure if you're supposed to use paper towel to wipe this stuff on, but I have done it several times and it's worked just fine. So we're gonna keep doing it that way until someone tells me that that's not how you're supposed to do it. So comment down below if you know what you should be using, because so far that's what I've been using. And then I'm gonna be using the polyacrylic water-based protective finish here. I'm about halfway through this. This is the only top coat that I've used for all of my pieces so far, and it's amazing. For this, I will be using a foam brush. I found that this is the easiest way to wipe on the poly. It's smooth, and just make sure you go slow for this because if it starts clumping, it's gonna look not the best. So those are the 2 that I'm gonna be using. I like to start with the stain, so we're gonna start with that. So let's get started on doing that. I forgot to mention I am gonna wear a glove just because this has like a very fishy smell, and I don't want to get it on my hands because it's hard to get off. For the longest time I didn't know how to open this stuff, but I found the easiest way is to take your screwdriver, lift it up like that. Then I'm gonna take this paper towel and I'm literally just going to pour this poly on. It says to pour liberally, so pour a lot. And I will also be doing several coats of this because this is what's gonna protect your top. You don't want it to get ruined right away. So I'm gonna be doing several coats of this because as a nightstand, you know people set things on there, and it's just important to protect it in the right way. You do want to make sure though that you are rubbing it in. As quick as that, and that's why I love the poly, the Wipe On Poly. We're gonna do the same exact thing on the top here, easy as that. So make sure though, if you guys have let your piece sit for a little bit, to wipe off anything because you don't want that to be right on top of your piece. So again, I'm just pouring liberally like it said and rubbing it into the piece. I apologize if you guys can hear the storm outside, but rain is pouring. Be super careful to not get this on the body of your piece. I haven't had that problem, so I don't know if it'll stain or leak through, but I do not want to take the chance. All right, I'm gonna let this dry, and I probably will do 2 or 3 more coats of this. I'm not gonna show you guys for the sake of the time of the video, but just know once it dries to do more layers, because this is the only thing that is going to protect your piece from anything that people set on it. And with a brand new stain top, you do not want it to get ruined right away. All right, now time to get the polyacrylic on the body of the dresser. I have mentioned this before, but I put a little bit of paint in here. It's gonna help prevent this top coat from being cloudy on your piece. So I'm just gonna open up the top coat, polyacrylic, whatever you wanna call it. Oh shoot, I didn't shake it. Give it a little shake. Open this stuff up. You know this stuff works really well because it's kind of like top coated the seal. So, all right, we're gonna pour a little bit of this in there. And when it comes to how much, I really don't measure at all. I just kind of eyeball and hope for the best. If you want to save your product a whole bunch, then I would maybe measure it out, although I don't have measurements for you guys, so I just eyeball it. I always eyeball it. You do how you want to do it, but this is the way that I do it. I've got an old butter knife right here. I just use this as a kind of like a mixer when I don't have a paint stick. You want to make sure this stuff is mixed up so that you're not just getting the top coat on, you're getting that paint that's in the bottom too. Set this right here because this piece will be refinished later. All right, you see here that this is all mixed up, so we're gonna go ahead and start putting this on the dresser now. You wanna make sure that you're applying this stuff as easy or as slow and thin as possible because you don't want to overdo it. It'll create drips, it'll be harder to apply, and it won't be that much fun trying to get it out. I know that I've said this before, but if you are gonna rush any step, this is the last step that you want to rush. And I just find it easier putting the top coat in, or the top coat on when the drawers are in. You don't need to worry too much about the sides of the drawers just because they're going to be pushed inward. But on the top, that's where, or on the surface, that's where all the traction is going to happen. You know, someone may bump into it and scrape it, and this is going to protect it from that. I just moved the nightstand to the side. I pushed it from the back because the back has no paint on it. And now we're gonna do the same exact thing to the dresser. We have both of the top coats on the dresser and the nightstand. We're letting those dry. And then in the next clip, you guys are gonna see what it looks like with the hardware on. So we're gonna let this dry and get the hardware on. All right, you guys, hardware is on, and this is the finished product. I think I'm gonna post this on Marketplace for about $650. And if you guys want to see how I'm staging this and how I am getting it onto Marketplace and the type of description that I use, that's going to be in the next video, so watch out for that, you guys. Otherwise, we are finished with this set and we're ready to get it posted on the Marketplace. If you guys are interested in this content and you want to keep seeing some more, make sure you please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel so that I have time to film. So that is it for this video, and I will see you guys in the next.